Hey everybody, it's me, Sam Tom from the future. This intro is going to be on multiple videos, so if you think you've accidentally clicked the same one twice, you probably haven't. I guess maybe you have, but you might not. So if you are watching this, you're about to watch me talk about Resident Evil. But here's the problem. When I started recording, I thought I was going to talk about all 6 movies in one video. Turned out that would have been a 2-hour-long video. So at some point I decided I would break it up into 2 videos. Still would have been pretty long. So I got big brain and decided to do one video every day for a week, leading up to my video about the new Resident Evil. So Resident Evil number 1, that video will go up on Sunday, and then there will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then on Saturday, my video for the new Resident Evil will pop up. So, deep breaths, deep breaths. At some point in the videos that you're going to see, I will mention everything being in one video. At some point, I'll talk about it being 2 videos. At some points, I'm going to be like, we'll be right back in a second with my thoughts on the next one. And then the video is going to be over because past me didn't know what he was talking about. So this is future me explaining to you the situation. So this intro is going to be in all 6 videos. Feel free to skip it if you click around. I'm not going to put cards in every video because cards are frustrating, but I will put the links to all the Resident Evils as they get published. I'm sorry, all my videos about the Resident Evil movies as they get published in the description, and I will have a playlist link at the end of each video so that as you get to the end of one, you can easily find the next one. Oh my goodness, I'm talking way too fast. By the way, this is the higher part of the shelf that I sit in front of. These are where all my DC things are. So, hope you enjoy listening to me rant about zombies for a long time. Thank you. Alright, we are on to Resident Evil Apocalypse. I can tell you right away, I think the biggest thing with this movie that made me enjoy it less than the first one is that it split the focus. I talked about it when I was talking about the first movie. We followed one group of people telling one story in one location throughout almost the entire film in the first one. In the second one, we're following Alice. We're following the doctor who's looking for his kid. We're following Valentine and her crew. We're following LJ. We're following, I think Nikolai is his name. We're following the villain. We're following Nemesis. We've got all these different people that we're following, all completely spread out throughout the city. And it's not until the end that they all combine. And I realize that most movies are like that. But because that was such a distinct feature of the first one, I was hoping I would get more of that. And I understand that you have to expand in a sequel, and she's coming out to a whole city rather than just being in the hive the whole time. So it makes sense that it's going to spread out a bit, but it spread out a lot. And the movie was shorter, which I don't mind the shorter runtime, but it was a lot to keep track of. I got confused with, again, I think his name was Nikolai, but that group of agents that landed before they should have to help the citizen, I'm not even 100% sure if that's the same people that we kept following, because I didn't recognize any of them at the time. I recognized one of them later. I'm like, hey, that's the guy that was in the Magi in the Mummy movies. But I didn't recognize who that was until much, much later. So I assume the reason that we start following them earlier is to see that they care about the citizens and they're not just horrible people like other people at Umbrella. But I'm not even sure that's the same people because they're just dressed in riot gear like so many other people. So we didn't need to follow them. We could have had them just show up at the school like they do and quickly explain that they were abandoned, they were left, and they're now angry at Umbrella. I know in movies it's better to show, not tell, but in this case, I think showing makes it more confusing. Same thing with LJ. He doesn't become important until he meets up with the other characters. So we don't have to see all that stuff that he's going through before time. It doesn't contribute to the plot. Show, don't tell is about things that matter to the plot. But he could have just shown up, said that line, I'm not one of those things, and just explained that, he has survived. We don't even really know that much about him, or if we do, if we saw it, I've forgotten it, because there was so much to keep track of. So I really wish we would have focused on Alice and Valentine, and maybe the doctor who's looking for his daughter, although we don't even really need to see that much of him. We could just have the interactions and the phone calls with him. So we still get that whole element, and then we see him at the end. But it was spread a lot thinner, which to me was a negative. But let's see what I have in my notes. Low frame rate slow motion. Lots of shots in this. Not lots, but multiple times. Enough that I noticed it and kept noticing it. They have this real low frame rate slow motion in very low resolution. And it's like, I guess you couldn't get a good quality slow-mo camera, but none of the slow-mo shots were necessary. So you just have these weird, blurry, gross shots of zombies moving in slow-mo that serve no purpose, and they just detract from the film because they look so bad. Seems like a weird choice. So this citizen that they're all trying to save, she's running away from these zombies, and then when they kill all the zombies, and they say that they're going to help her, she says, "It's too late, I've already been bitten, I know what's going to happen," and she jumps. So why was she trying to escape if she was just going to kill herself? Is it just because she didn't want to be ripped and torn apart? I don't know. It seemed weird to be running for your life and then end your life right after that. I put that it gets right to the story, no dilly-dallying, which makes for a short runtime. I really liked that. Picks up pretty much right after the first one, which was good. CGI looks better. The creatures are shown more in the dark, or they use the camera that the reporter has to show it so that it doesn't have to be as high resolution. I thought that was smart, because that was one of the problems of the first one, is that the creatures didn't look great, so I thought they handled it better in this one. Nemesis was still kind of rough, but at least it was, it was practical. It was a real thing, so it doesn't look like old CGI, it just looks like a suit, which I think that's better in the long run, because it's never going to look more out of date as CGI gets better. It's always just going to look like a suit, so if you can deal with it, you'll be able to deal with it in the future. Less focus, I already talked about that. Why would you go into a cemetery? So at one point, after most of the main characters have gotten together, they go to a cemetery. Your whole town is being overrun with dead people that have been reanimated. Why would you go to the place full of dead people? I don't get, I get that, this will be a cool scene from the movie, but from the character's perspective, why would you go to the cemetery? Makes absolutely no sense. At that point, somewhere around there, I realized that it was Oded Fair, I don't know how you pronounce his name, from the Mummy movies, playing this former Umbrella employee. So that was exciting. I haven't seen him in much. At one point I wrote T-Virus Origins, because that's kind of what this movie seemed like. We learn more background on it. So then, one of the main villains that we kept seeing, I knew I had seen him somewhere before, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And at one point I tried to look up who he was, but I didn't remember what his character's name was. And I clicked on the wrong name, and it was the guy that plays Bruce Wayne in Titans. And I was like, I don't think that's the same guy. But maybe it's just been longer than I think, and he's doing a good accent, so I guess that's him. But then that guy showed up later, so I was like, okay, who's this other guy then? Why can't I figure out who he is? And I figured out he plays Von Strucker in the MCU. So we've got a billionaire from DC world and a billionaire from the Marvel world, both in this movie, Von Strucker and Bruce Wayne. It's always nice for me in movies that I've never seen before, especially these low-profile movies. I guess not low-profile, but not huge movies. To see some familiar faces, even if I can't place them, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's the guy from that thing, and that's the guy from that thing, and it helps the movie stick in my brain more, and it's going to help me as I continue on. I assume it's going to help me keep track of which movie is which. Because, 1 is the one with Letty, 2 is the one with Bruce Wayne, and the guy from The Mummy. And hopefully, continuing forward, that will help. Although, I happen to see, so I know, that some of them are in a couple. So, hopefully there's some more new faces that I recognize that will help me out with that. I was for a minute towards the end when all the news stations are talking about the Umbrella Corporation has been found guilty of blah blah blah, and new evidence has come to light, and I was just like, wow, that is surprising. There's 4 more movies. Like, what? How are they gonna? And then almost immediately, it's like, oh no, this was shown to be a fraud, and this company's great. Everyone loves this company. Everyone should love this company. The government says he loves this company. I'm like, yep, that sounds right. That sounds more like what would happen. So they got me for a second. I was like, really? They got caught? No, just kidding. Corporations get away with everything. And then I put towards the end another sequel bait after the main story ends. So I don't mind movies setting up a sequel if it doesn't interfere with the main story, unlike The Amazing Spider-Man 2. If they can finish the main story and then they want to tag on a little extra setting up a sequel, totally fine with that. That's what the first Resident Evil did. That's what the second one has done. So hopefully that's how they continue on, where we get the story ends, and then here's what might happen next. So I really like that style of doing it, rather than completely flooding your story with all these unnecessary complications to set up a bunch of future projects that don't end up happening. So those are my thoughts on part 2. We will get to part 3 right now for you. I gotta watch it first, but I will be back. Hey, it's me, Sam Tom from the future again, recording an outro that's going to be on all these videos about Resident Evil. So if you think you've already seen this, you probably have. Apologies if that video ended strangely or abruptly, because again, I thought there would be more in the video, and there's not. This is it. So those were my thoughts on whichever Resident Evil movie I was talking about in that video. Feel free to tell me your thoughts, but that's all I have. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. And if you haven't watched the rest of my Resident Evil, I can't speak! Check out my other videos. Thank you. Bye.